Hello students, welcome to another descriptive answer writing series, daily series for RBI Grade B 2024. Today we will be discussing another important question, that is, what do you understand by inflation targeting and how are the inflation targeting framework, the inflation targeting framework has been effective in controlling inflation in India. This is an important topic, students, because of the rising food prices and rising inflation and how it is being controlled and what is the target for fiscal year 2025. All this, okay, due to rising food prices and everything, this topic becomes an important. Now let's see the introduction. In introduction part, students, firstly you have to define what is inflation. Inflation in simple terms can be defined as the rise in general prices of commodities in an economy. And nextly, you can take one point on how rising inflation will affect economy. I have given this: rise in inflation can have a negative impact on economy, like reduction in purchasing power, lower demand, slow economic growth, and higher interest rates. Next, you have to give a brief introduction of inflation targeting in the introduction itself. To control inflation, Government of India and RBI signed a new monetary policy framework in 2015, in which flexible inflation targeting was introduced by RBI. Okay, this will be your introduction. Next we'll go to the important features of inflation targeting framework. First point is primarily maintain price stability while keeping in mind the objective of growth. It should keep inflation target is 4% plus or minus 2%, and next is RBI shall be seen to have failed if inflation is more than 6% or less than 2% for 3 consecutive quarters. Students, you can add a FRBM Act, few points from FRBM Act, fiscal responsibility 2003. You can put few things from fiscal deficit targets, fiscal deficits, and all this from this in the objectives itself. Okay, it is a vast this thing, so you can add any 4 points from this. Clear? Next we will see effectiveness of inflation targeting in India, how inflation targeting has worked in India from the past 10 years. Okay, first point is, since the inflation targeting framework came into effect in 2015, RBI has been able to keep the inflation CPI combined around 4%. It was after COVID-19 which caused supply side disruptions that resulted in inflation going beyond 6% for consecutive 9 months from January to 2022 to September 2022. Okay, we are giving a brief idea. Like for the most of the time, it was able to maintain CPI inflation around 4%, but only during the COVID-19, inflation has gone beyond 6%. Okay. Next, Government of India introduced the escape clause in FRBM Act 2003 in 2017 to flexibly follow fiscal deficit targeting under certain special circumstances. In 2020, Finance Minister invoked the escape clause due to COVID-19, which led to rising fiscal deficit and increasing inflation. Okay, this escape clause, this is one important point, students. You can add such kind of points to fetch you good marks. Okay, since the onset of COVID-19 crisis and even before, the RBI had been focusing on growth. It had cut interest rates by 115 basis points, maintained an accommodative stance, made commitment to maintain the stance as long as necessary to revive growth, even though inflation had been inching up due to supply side concerns. This led to sound and resilient economy recovery in economic growth to about 9% in 21-22 and about 7% in 22-23. This is one more point. Next, economy in 2023. We'll go to the recent this thing. We'll add 2 points from that. Economy in 2023 also faced various challenges like supply chain disruptions due to Ukraine war, Israel-Syria war, slow economic growth, and rising food prices due to irregular monsoons. All this contributed to higher inflation. Okay. Now we'll add few data points you have to add, students. I have taken this recent April month's RBI monetary policy, this thing. Okay. RBI in its recent monetary policy meeting maintained the stance of withdrawal of accommodation and forecasted CPI inflation for fiscal year 25 at 4.5%, which is in line with inflation targeting framework of 4% plus or minus 2%. Okay. Next, last point, students. The accountability measures incorporated in the inflation targeting framework ensured that while focusing on growth, the inflation management objective is not lost, and India has been able to maintain strong economic growth fueled by high capital expenditure and increased demand. Okay, these are the points, students. This is how you have to write the answer. Okay. Next, lastly, conclusion, students. I have given the conclusion. This would be the ideal conclusion. Okay. India has, despite being developed and agro-based economy, it has shown the highest growth rate among all the major economies. India was able to overcome various challenges thrown at the global economy like COVID, Ukraine war, Israel war, supply chain disruptions, etc., successfully, with efficient inflation targeting framework being one of the reasons. Even though India has missed inflation target in past few years, it has achieved the economic growth and is able to bring inflation within targets of the framework. This is your conclusion, students. I hope the question answer is good enough for you guys. We'll take up next question and then next session. Okay, students, thank you. That's it for today's.